Discover the power within you. A few weeks ago, I started a series of one of the really, truly great books in the Unity movement, Discover the Power Within You by Reverend Eric Butterworth. And today, in the Daily Word, for the scriptural reference, it said, he who is within, I just noted it right now, he who is within is greater than he who is in the world. And the spelling of that actually is he, capital H, within is greater than he, lowercase h, who is in the world. And what that is telling you, you've never really thought about that. There's a lot of really key little secrets in interpreting the Bible metaphysically. That's telling us that which is what we are, spirit, has power over that which we see in the manifest world. That's what that statement says. So last week, I took a break off from the series because it was Mother's Day, and now I want to return because I think it's that important, this book. And just kind of, I'm going to go over the entire book. I mean, at this point, I'm going to just share the whole thing because it's just such a wonderful book. And I really do consider it a must-read for all Unity people. But that's a bit of a wishful thinking, I understand, because not everybody likes to read, and that's okay. My place here is to share with you Unity fundamental views and also key leading edge ideas to push you, to keep pushing you. Don't get comfortable. Keep moving forward. And it's, going over the book is a good reminder that every time we see something new or something different, old, we see it differently not because the book has changed, although there might be some small additions here and there, but because you have changed. Your consciousness has changed. It is always changing. So as an overview and of getting to the heart of the matter, the book proposes one very simple yet very radical idea, and that is that the true message of Jesus was not about his divinity, it was about our divinity, about the divinity of all mankind. This is made clear, again, in several passages. And there's one when he's asked about the kingdom, when will we see the kingdom? It's in Luke 17:20-21, and it says, once on being asked by the Pharisees, when the kingdom of God would come, Jesus replied, the coming of the kingdom of God is not something that can be observed, nor will people say, here it is, or there it is, because the kingdom of God is in your midst. And in your midst is also translated as within. Now, I cannot overstate just how big of a statement that is that Jesus just made. You see, the mindset of most everybody in that time period was deeply rooted in tribalism. Now, can you imagine the response to that statement when he said that, or the people that heard him say that? Now, it's not recorded, but with just a little bit of imagination, I think we kind of figure it out. Because every reference to heaven they had ever heard was always, one, a place, an actual physical place, and two, up there, out there somewhere in the sky. And along comes this guy, and he tells them that the kingdom of heaven is, one, not a place, and two, they will never see it with their physical eyes, that the kingdom of heaven is within. They surely must have gone, what? How? What does that even mean? How can heaven be inside of me if I know full well that this body will someday cease to exist? What will become of heaven then? Will it cease to exist too? What are you talking about, Jesus? Well, he has a response to that actually in John, the Gospel of John. He says, I have much more to say to you, more than you can now bear. He was very clear on the consciousness that he was dealing with. So yeah, they didn't get it. But the odd thing is that so many people even today still don't get it. They don't. Most people think of heaven as somewhere that we're going to go to, just as they have a reference to the man in the sky, the man upstairs. But Jesus was saying that place that you think you will go to is not out there. It is right here and right now. His emphasis on the present moment was very, very obvious and repeated. When he was asked about the harvest one time, when will the harvest come? He said, look around, the fields are full. The harvest is now. Now, now, now. That presence thing all the time. So, the mindset of the people at that time set did not allow them to grasp the nuances of his words. However, had he been talking to you, astute Unity students, that would have been a different matter. You would have said, oh, yeah, right? Or maybe not. But for the sake of clarity, don't you ever stop and think, Jesus, we love you, bro, but why didn't you write anything down? You couldn't have found a scribe somewhere to say, come here with me, and what I say, write it down. No, but in any case, see, if he was talking to you, and he told you that the kingdom of heaven is right here and right now, he would have probably added something like, you see, because the reason is, because we live in a non-local universe in which everything is everywhere all the time. And you, as a nice Unity student, would have said, I heard that somewhere, and I'm kind of beginning to grasp it. It is a strange idea. Everything is everywhere all the time. What? First time I heard that, I said, wow. So at the most basic level, what is the difference really that we're talking about here? Just spiritually speaking. And it is this, that whether we believe that fundamentally the universe is material, or whether we believe that fundamentally the universe is non-material. That is the key to everything. The debate's still going on. We hear it all the time in Let's Get Metaphysical class. There are some scientists that very much still think that everything in the mind, consciousness, everything can be answered through physical, shots of neurons or whatever firing and stuff, and that creates this thing called consciousness and da-da-da. But more and more scientists are coming on board saying, no, that's not what's happening at all. Consciousness is fundamental to the universe. Very interesting. So, now we don't get an extension of that thought, but it is pretty clear that if the universe is non-material in nature, then everything is non-material in nature. Not only we humans, but trees, flowers, animals, rocks, everything is non-material. And we're starting to understand that a little bit better. I said before, God is everywhere. That if God is everywhere, then the question is not, what is God? The question is, what is not God? And the answer is nothing. Everything is God. And we were talking about that at LGM group on Wednesday, because we talked about the philosopher Spinoza. And Spinoza had this little aha moment and said, how can that be? Because Descartes had just been right before him. He thought that that mind was one thing and matter was another, da-da-da-da. But then, Spinoza got to thinking, well, if this is one thing and this is another, how do they interact? And he said, the only way they can is that it's really just one thing. And so he said, everything is God. That's called pantheism. And we have a slightly different version. We call it panentheism. I'll talk to you about that later on sometime. Anyway, that view got him excommunicated and all his books burned, which is par for the course for leading-edge thinkers in the past. And what a shame. Can you imagine how much literature was burned up in the name of religion in the past that we don't have? It's horrible. And so someone in the group mentioned, if Spinoza had been born in India or somewhere, he would have been a guru or a mystic or something. But no, he was born in the West, so he was a heretic instead. So Discover the Power Within You continues with chapter 7, and the name of the title of the book, chapter is Your Thought is Your Life. Now that's a common theme for us, we Unity students. In fact, it is our Unity principle number 3, right? It says, we create our life experiences through our thoughts and through our beliefs. That's our third principle. Simply put, now listen to this. Simply put, what this means is that what we are seeing and what we are experiencing is our consciousness manifested. Fillmore said this. We are always living our consciousness. You can't help but to live anything else. That's where you are. So that's what you're expressing. That's what you're radiating. This is the energy that you're putting forth into the world. And so our lives literally are our thoughts. And this is not a new idea. This is one of the things key about unity. We don't claim that this is anything new. We call it new thought, but there's nothing new in new thought, as they say. Because the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, said, all that we are is the result of what we thought. Proverbs tells us exactly the same thing. As a man thinketh, so is he. Unity co-founder, and the chapter starts this way, Charles Fillmore wrote, God's greatest gift to man is the power of thought, through which he can incorporate into his consciousness the mind of God. And Butterworth writes, man is a thinking being. The very word man comes from the ancient Sanskrit, which literally means to think. Then he says, Jesus was the Christopher Columbus of the soul. He crossed the frontier of the mind and discovered a whole new world within himself. He continues, the mind is the bridge between man and the infinite. Think about that one. The mind is the bridge between man and the infinite. And the technique is not theology or symbolism, but the molding power of our thoughts. The molding power of our thoughts. Jesus was a revolutionary at heart, but his revolution was not a physical one. And that's what these people did not understand, because they were in that tribalism state of consciousness. So they were looking for a revolution physically, a new kingdom to establish for the people of Israel. And Jesus was not talking about that kingdom. He was talking about a different kingdom. He was talking about the transformation of our minds. And as we say in unity, change your mind, change your world. Why? Because, unity students, everything works from within to without. Remember that quote that we found the other day in Matthew? I had not ever seen that one. I don't know why. And it says, clean the plate on the inside so that the outside might be cleansed as well. I said, wow, that is exactly that. That life is lived from within out. I love this thing from Gospel of Mary. They say it over and over. For those who have ears to hear. For those who have ears to hear. And really what it is that for those who have the consciousness that understands this, whose consciousness has unfolded to the degree that you can understand these things. So today I started saying that when you see something new, or again, you see it differently. And that's exactly what the Fillmores did. They saw the Bible and they saw the life of Jesus from another perspective. One that, at the risk of sounding arrogant, and I don't want to, from a higher elevated consciousness. It looks differently. Spiral dynamics, we've been talking about a little about that, tells us that we've all gone through these stages. So it's something that we all do. We've all gone through tribalism, warriors, the mythical consciousness. But, and some of it still remains because we keep some of it, it's valuable. But in general, we've moved on to a different level, a different way of looking at things. But yet the desire to know lingers with us because we are curious by nature. And that brings us to chapter number 8, the Law of Non-Resistance. Wow. What comes to your mind when you hear the Law of Non-Resistance? Two quotes come to me right offhand. First is, resist not evil. You've heard that, right? And the second one is, that which you resist persists. You've heard that, right? That which you resist persists. Seems to me the link between 7 and 8 is that both are telling us of the power, that the power we have lies in our thoughts and our feelings. The power to both create and to destroy. We have both. Depends on how we use it. So chapter 7 is about creating our lives. And chapter 8 would be about not giving our power to something else. The point is that whenever you resist something, you are giving your attention and thus your power to it. And so you're giving it, you're feeding it, you're giving it fertilizer, the weed. You're giving the weed fertilizer, and it's going to grow. So that's why it says, what you resist persists, because you're giving it your power. You know, Jesus spoke a lot in parables. And this is the one about the non-resistance. He says, you have heard that it is said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, resist not him that is evil. But whoever smiteth thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Wow. And then it says something about if somebody takes your coat, give him your cloak as well. So always just do not resist. Butterworth writes, this is one of the most profound messages in the entire Bible. He acknowledges that most people would say that to act this way is to kind of give in to others and be taken advantage of. That's what the greater mentality would think. But that's not it at all. Because that's our human response. And so what Jesus is saying is to change your mind about how you react to things. Not to look at things, the world, circumstances, etc., fundamentally, first off, through your human eyes, to look at it through your spiritual eyes. Turn the other cheek. Change direction. Remember when I told you about the fishermen who were fishing? A tiny little boat right here, and they're fishing over here. There's nothing there, but on the other side, it's packed. Really? It's a metaphor about changing how you see things. Change your mind, change your world, right? Now, is it easy to do? Oh, no. It's not easy to do at all. But is it something that we need to do? Yes, it is. According to the Master Jesus, that is exactly what we need to do. So once again, it is all about where we place our thoughts. Because where we place our thoughts is where we place our power. Where we place our thoughts is where we place our power. Let's take a few moments now, Mr. Dan, to contemplate the words of wisdom we have offered, that were offered by both Eric Butterworth and the Master Jesus in today's lesson. So we begin by taking a few deep breaths and centering ourselves in thoughts. Once centered, we begin always by giving gratitude. Being grateful for all that we have allows us to open ourselves to the vastness of the universe and all that life has to offer. We are reminded today that we are powerful co-creators of our lives, and that the power that we have is through our thoughts that we keep. Nothing is more important than changing our lives, than changing our thoughts. We take this lesson to heart and carry it with us all week, so that every time a situation arises in our lives that tempts us to react in our human way, we instead turn the other cheek and respond not from our human self, but from our higher self. In doing so, we begin our journey of transformation. And so it is.